Hello again, everyone. Melth here, with what I think is at last an answer to one of the Baldur's Gate 3 optimization community's most commonly asked and most important optimization questions. What is the greatest possible number of attacks you can get with one character in one turn? If you, as I have, look through multiple videos about that topic and read different Reddit threads about it, you'll get a lot of different answers. And to be honest, I'd say that most of them are rookie numbers. The true answer, first of all, is just infinity. You can get an infinite number of attacks per round in several different ways. I've found at least 3. I'll talk about those briefly, but they won't be the focus of this video, because those things are exploits. I'm more about finding ways to optimize cleverly within the rules. Now, speaking of the rules, what the answer is also depends a bit on what your rule set is. But no matter what it is, whether it's honor difficulty or not honor difficulty, the builds that I have found get many more attacks than any video or Reddit thread I've ever seen has thought is possible. The greatest number that I can get is over 60, and even the least is well over 20. Let's talk though about what exactly constitutes an attack for these purposes, so we're all talking apples to apples here. So, first of all, let me go through a few things that I don't think should count. If I was to cast a spell like Circle of Death here, I could get like 30 kills, but that should not count as 30 attacks for several reasons. For one thing, no attack dice were rolled there at all, those were saving throws. But also, clearly, as fun as it can be to get like 30 kills with one AoE spell, that's not the same thing as actually doing multiple attacks, even if that spell happens to involve an attack roll. Or it's something like a hunter doing volley at high levels, for example. Or even if it was, say, a Astarion shooting out an arrow of many targets. I would still just count this as one attack for purposes of what I'm talking about here. Because otherwise, you can kind of cheese things and inflate your numbers with going to places like just a room full of rats. Or you could do things like go to a place that has many NPCs and lure them together from several different groups with minor illusion, or carry them together with improvised weapon. And that, again, might be a powerful tactic, but it's clearly not the same thing as actually having a lot of attacks. It's a different question we're asking at that point. Magic Missile can do a lot of instances of damage, but this is not an attack either because it has neither a saving throw nor an attack roll. So I would say Magic Missile, though it can be powerful, is again not something I can count for purposes of maximum number of attacks. One more thing that I would say doesn't count is getting a bunch of attacks via your summons. If, for example, Karlach's Raven here goes up and attacks this rat, that doesn't count as an attack by Karlach. Again, just like AoE spells or Magic Missile, summons can be very powerful and very useful. Goodness knows if you've watched my main series, I have like 30 summons in that party. I love my summons, but I wouldn't say that my main character in that run is getting like 50 attacks when his summons do their attacks every round or whatever, right? I also won't be stretching the definition of a turn. For example, if you initiate combat with a conversation like this, and enough seconds pass, you sometimes get back your action and essentially got a free hit, sometimes triggering extra attack even, as happened here. That happens most often on non-honor mode, but it can even happen on honor difficulty sometimes if the conversation before combat begins is long enough. I won't be counting any of that to bring in extra free hits or things like that. So, being strict about what counts as a turn, being strict about what counts as an attack, with no exploits, I can get about 60 attacks in one turn with one character. Let me go briefly through the infinite attack exploits first, and then go to the no exploits 60 attacks guy after that. So, our first infinite attacks trick is one that's doable right from the beginning of the game, and is quite powerful, and also scales up really well too. So we'll start things off conventionally, just spend your attacks or whatever. Alright, we've used up all his attacks. Now we get something like a Caustic Bulb out. Doesn't have to be a Caustic Bulb, but something that endlessly does damage when you step into it is what the key is here. And we're gonna just throw that somewhere where he is barely on the edge of it. Like so. And then, with him at critically low health, he walks out. He walks back. Oh no, he's dead. Who could have foreseen this? So, then as a free action, we walk over and we're going to drop off for him a healing potion. The weaker the better, and of course the weaker ones are just super easy to come by in massive quantities anyway. So, there we go, Astarion gets back up, and notice he has all his bonus actions back. If you have the Helmet of Grit too like he has now, you get 3 and that scales things up pretty well. But even 1 you can get infinite attacks with like this. So I shoot that guy down, and then I walk out of the Caustic Brine, I walk back into the Caustic Brine. Getting up restores your movement too, so I can just endlessly repeat this process. But there are also ways to enhance this too. For example, the Illithid Power Survival Instinct, or the spell Death Ward that many classes get as a level 4 spell, or the Blood of Lathander Mace that lets you revive once per day when you drop to 0 HP. All of those give you an even better revive from downed. There we go. So he drops, he immediately comes back, and he comes back not only with his bonus actions, but with all his actions too. I think I've made my point. I'll demonstrate the next method now. So, the next method is fundamentally similar, but can't be done until you get to Act 3.
Vandalism.
We currently have 2 bonus actions, but if I am wearing the Helmet of Grit, which I am, and I walk into the edge there, bam, I take damage, now I have 3 bonus actions thanks to the Helmet of Grit. So that's meant to work once per round, but you can exploit it infinitely for any number of attacks you want. So I split up a potion and we'll drop it into the cloud next to us, and the cloud breaks it, and we are now healed. Okay, then we walk out of the cloud, then we walk back in. Got back my bonus action, so I'll go ahead and shoot that one. You can see how it works and how it cycles infinitely. The third of the infinite attack exploits I'll be talking about here is, I think, a new invention. My friend Chandran and I were talking about ways to get value out of the Act 3 item Duelist Prerogative. And he came up with this idea, and I've done a bit of refinement to it, and now it's very potent indeed. Let's walk in here and do the Shar fight to see that I can take out this entire giant room full of enemies.
Nothing important.
So, got a lot of foes around here, and note one thing. Unlike normal, I don't have a Bloodlust Elixir or Haste currently on my main character, and I'll be keeping it that way in this case. Main character now is a fighter, he's level 12, so being a level 11 or higher fighter, he has 3 attacks with his extra attack. But of course, on honor difficulty, you can't trigger that multiple times, except with Action Surge, of course. So, if you had additional actions from things like Bloodlust or Haste, those are only 1 attack apiece. Now, fighters, of course, get a lot of feats. What he did with his included getting Dual Wielder, so he can wield currently both Duelist Prerogative and Nyrolna, and also the Sentinel feat, and Tavern Brawler to be a good thrower. Now, a couple things to note here. Duelist Prerogative only has its effect of giving you an extra reaction if your offhand is empty. Mine is not currently, so that effect is wasted. Nyrolna is a powerful thrown weapon that returns to you when you throw it. So, those 2 things work together really, really well here. With the Sentinel feat, if one of my allies provokes an attack opportunity from one of these nearby guys, I can then counter. My allies are free to use haste, by the way, though they don't really need it, but it'll be a little time saver here. So let's say I had maybe this Deva now fly over here, and then we're going to walk away, provoking an attack of opportunity. So he attacks, now Sentinel activates. Stab, stab. Got 2 attacks because they have 2 weapons out there. And that, because it was an attack, activated my extra attack. So now let me go ahead and throw Nyrolna at, maybe you over there. Now, of course, when I'm throwing it, it's leaving my offhand, then it returns my offhand. You'll notice that some of my movement restores when that happens, because whenever Nyrolna comes back to you, you re-get its Veil of the Wind ability. And also, that replenishes and gives you the extra reaction from Duelist Prerogative. So now, even though I've used up what should be my only reaction, given that my offhand is not empty, if I walk away like that, Sentinel I can reactivate, which I shouldn't be able to do, you would think, and I get back my extra attack, which also shouldn't happen on honor difficulty. But it does this way if you haven't used things like Bloodlust or Speed Potions and Haste or whatever that are normally limited by the Honor Mode rule that you only get one attack per action. Gonna throw a Void Bulb at Viconia. She can't be attacked directly due to Sanctuary, but I can group her up with people. Okay. Then I will throw Nyrolna at that person over there, perhaps. Alright. Then it's time to restore my extra attack. So I stand next to that person. Deva still has plenty of speed with a dash. So Deva, fly over here. Sentinel activates. Stab, stab.
Still on my...
I'll throw a bomb at the Mother Superior there. Sentinel again. So, again, what's happening behind the scenes basically is every time Nyrolna leaves my possession, Duelist Prerogative says, oh, his offhand is empty. He gets an extra reaction. Then Nyrolna comes back to my hand, giving me more movement speed so I can endlessly just move around at will. And then I keep activating my extra attack from being a fighter. And that works because I haven't activated either Bloodlust or Haste that would normally run into the Honor Mode rule that you're only allowed to do one set of extra attacks per round, basically. So I can now repeat this endlessly if I wish to. Now the Deva eventually ran out of movement speed, but that's okay because I have other allies that can also use their movement speed to also provoke attacks from enemies. Because I've had to waste a ton of attacks just throwing weak bombs near Viconia, we have run out of enemies that can even actually attack us, but the whole room has basically been massacred at this point. So now we get out things like Haste. And we'll throw a Speed Potion, and that should give us the finisher we need. And one last attack. There we go. The entire room of Shard Worshippers wiped out in a single turn. So, those are the 3 ways I have found to get infinite numbers of attacks in this game. Let's get into what the greatest number of attacks you can do with one character in one turn legitimately is. It's just about 60. So we'll start the fight here. Let's go through my build briefly here. So, I've got 2 levels in Fighter for Action Surge, 6 levels in Swords Bard for extra attack and decent spellcasting progression and slashing flourish, and 4 levels in Sorcerer. That is mostly to be able to do quicken spells and convert my low-level spell slots to high-level spells, and also be able to do Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray at 5th level does 6 beams in 1 action. I still don't really like counting magic at all. So later on in this video, I'll do a version where I do no magic at all and talk about for a pure warrior what is the most attacks that you can get. But for any reasonable definition, Scorching Ray is a series of attacks. So, items. I've got low health and Helmet of Grit. I've got the Martial Exertion Gloves to give me an additional attack. In my main hand, I've got Duelist Prerogative, and I have the Feat Dual Wielder allowing me to also have my offhand Marco Heshkir. That one's not really strictly necessary here. Just need to have some kind of offhand. We do need to also have, though, the Sentinel feat. Kind of like for the Infinite Exploit, but it won't be going infinite here. So, let's start things off. Order matters here. Let's have, say, Minthara walk over there, closer, and then provoke, thereby triggering our Sentinel. So we get 2 attacks there. Nice. And let me, while I'm thinking about it, put the Martial Exertion Gloves onto my spellbook. Okay, so that triggered our extra attack, and this will give us yet another attack. So, I will, let's say, back away from you, and then I'm going to do a Slashing Flourish ranged at, let's say, you. And then we've got the Martial Exertion going on. That gives us yet another attack. We go ahead and fire off another Slashing Flourish. So that is, so far, 4 of those. You'll notice that my damage is pretty bad, and that is very much on purpose here. If I piled up the damage boosting items available in the game, I could be doing thousands and thousands of damage and liquidating these guys way before I'm finished showing off how to attack. Let's move on now to our next victim. First, I'll turn on Arcane Battery and just use my free Marco Heschker cast, and just fire off a Scorching Ray at you. It's free in terms of spell slots, that is. Still costs me my action. Now that I don't need Marco Heschker anymore, I will free action unequip it. Great. Now we'll have, say, Minthara come over here again, and provoke. You have your melee weapon out, right? There we go. Need that so he actually will do the sentinel attack. Oh, did you run out of movement? That's fine, whatever. It's not about you, Minthara. Alright. Stab that one pretty good. That gives us another extra attack activation. So we fire off a Slashing Flourish range, and I'm still trying to avoid getting kills on people. So maybe you. Now, the reason this mattered not to get kills so far is that we wanted to get all those reaction extra attacks in before getting the Bloodlust Elixir activated, or speed potions or things like that. Because, as I mentioned previously, if you have any of those things active, you won't always get the extra attack from the Sentinel reaction. But now those Sentinel reactions are all used up, so now we can go ahead and use all those extra boosts to give us extra actions. We've done 1 Scorching Ray so far, we've done 3 Slashing Flourishes, we've done 3 Reaction Attacks, that puts us at 15 attacks so far. Let's throw out a Mind Sanctuary, then we'll talk about why it matters that this is on Honor difficulty. See, as you probably know, on Honor difficulty, they made some balance changes to try to prevent people from doing too many attacks. But some of those changes backfire here, as we'll see. See, on non-Honor difficulty, non-Honor mode, we'll call it, if you use Mind Sanctuary while you're in it, you can freely substitute bonus actions and main actions, which is great for a warrior character wanting to do just lots and lots of extra attack main actions, spending their bonus actions to do it. But for a sorcerer who can only quicken things, that's not really helpful at all. But on Honor mode, Mind Sanctuary is basically another haste, which, at least if used in the right order and carefully, stacks with regular haste. So, I'm going to go ahead now and cast out another Scorching Ray. Then I will walk out of the Mind Sanctuary. Its effect ends. But now I can go ahead and get regular haste applied to me.
Fresh orders? Of course.
Sometimes if you do it in the other order, you'll get lethargic, but this way always works. So, if you're counting, I've so far, though it only shows me as having 2 actions here with 1 used, I did 1 action initially, then I got 1 in there, and this will be my 3rd action. We'll go ahead and blast you down. We do actually want to get a kill for Bloodlust at this point. Okay. This is now my 4th action that I'm getting. Okay. Now we will use, let's say, Terrazol. That is a little known item in this game that, if you eat it, gives you another action stacking with haste. Though, like haste, when it wears off, it makes you lethargic. This is now our 5th main action. So another Scorching Ray. Bam, 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 bam. Okay. Then we'll use our Action Surge. So another Scorching Ray. Now we will start quickening spells. So we'll do that. And we've got even more Scorching Rays coming up. You get one, you get one, you get one. Alright, and now we'll fire off our final Scorching Ray. So that, 57, is what this build can do. And if you actually add in the damage boosting items that I'm skipping here, the damage you can get is going to be absolutely insane and liquidate anything that's not completely immune to fire. So that last build, silly overkill though 57 attacks in a round may be, would be pretty darn viable if you don't mind long resting every fight or so. Which apparently some people don't when they talk about fire sorcerers and so forth being supposedly good. I myself do not believe in fire sorcerers because they have to rest so often. This build, though, is just kinda silly. See, what we're going to be this time is 6 level Swordsbard, 3 level Thief Rogue for the extra bonus action, and level 3 Wild Magic Sorcerer. Yeah, my least favorite subclass. So you might think at first glance we traded in an action for a bonus action and have worse spell casting. And yeah, that's kind of true. But thanks to Wild Magic, there is a stupid workaround to that. We begin things in the same general kind of way. We pointlessly provoke them. We don't have 2 feats anymore, we only have Sentinel. So we can't actually dual wield here. So we only get 1 stab here, but that costs us only 1 attack overall. Not a big deal. So we begin things normally. We fire off our extra attacks with Slashing Flourish, with Martial Exertion Gloves, etc., etc. Then what we do is we have Tides of Chaos active. We have on the Ring of Feywild Sparks, and so we can get ourselves a guaranteed Wild Magic. Out of the 23 Wild Magic possibilities, 1 of them gives you an Action Surge. So at this point, you just pray for extremely good luck. So after many reloads, especially because there's currently a bug going on that makes Wild Magic not even work when it says it works, here we go. I've got Action Surge from Wild Magic. Now, I even more painstakingly tested it and verified you can't get this to happen multiple times if you somehow got multiple Wild Magics, and you can't stack it with regular Action Surge either. So we do limit out, as far as I can tell, at 6 main actions per turn, and with the Grit Helmet and Thief Rogue, 3 bonus actions per turn. Theoretically, with 6 levels of Monk, we can get to 4 of them, but that, of course, would mean we have basically no Sorcerer casting, so that's no good for this purpose. So, total of 9 actions that we can cast with, and therefore we get 9 5th level Scorching Rays. Now that is a massive number of 5th level spell slots, and this is why, even besides the silly randomness of it, this build really could not function repeatedly like the other Sorcerer build I just showed you could have. That one had a hard time, but could make the right number of 5th level spell slots. It had 2 legitimately, it got 2 free ones from Illithid free cast plus Marco Heshkir, and then it could convert all of its spell slots into 5th level spells and be good to go. But this one needs to get to 9 5th level spell slots, has only 3 sorcery points to begin with, has only 1 5th level spell slot to begin with, and can't even use Marco Heshkir. So it was not really possible to get the right number of sorcery points via normal means. Now there is an exploit you can do with repeatedly dropping and picking up a shield that gives you a spell slot, but I'm doing no exploits here. So what I had to do was just dip into my stockpile of Elixirs of Arcane Cultivation and just chug those, converting them to sorcery points. That got me just enough for this job. So with that, things overall go about the same. You got 1 fewer reaction attack because you weren't dual wielding, but you get 1 extra Scorching Ray attack, so you net out to plus 5 overall attacks. 57 plus 5 brings us to 62 attacks. That, I think, is the best possible. Alright, so we have seen the ridiculous number of attacks that a hybrid warrior sorcerer character can put out. About 60 or so. But of course, when I'm wondering how many attacks can you get in a turn, I'm really thinking of more of a pure warrior character, not someone spamming out Scorching Rays and things like that. So the answer to that version of the question depends on honor difficulty versus non-honor difficulty. We'll start with non-honor mode first. So my build this time is going to be 2 levels in Fighter, 5 levels in Warlock, 5 levels in Gloomstalker Ranger. There are a few other builds that get an equivalent number of attacks that I have found when I examined lots of things side by side. For example, 5 levels in Warlock, 6 levels in Swordsbard will work quite well. Let's go through why that is. So, on non-horror mode, if you have extra attack from any class that grants ordinary extra attack, like Ranger or Fighter or Monk or whatever, it stacks with Pact of the Blades Deepened Pact perk at level 5 that gives you an additional attack. So you end up being able to get 3 attacks per action, just like a level 11 fighter. So, for every action we get 3 attacks, but also on honor difficulty, Mind Sanctuary works differently than it does on non-honor mode. So here on non-honor mode, if we cast this, we can do actions and bonus actions interchangeably, which means that our 2 bonus actions, one from just the base level and one from Helmet of Grit, become basically full attacks that give us 3 attacks, just like our ordinary actions do. And for that matter, when we get our reaction attacks with Sentinel, each of those also gives us 2 extra attacks. Let's show how it goes. Now, as before, I'm deliberately building to do very little damage here, so that I don't kill these people prematurely. So I've taken off pretty much all my damage boosting equipment. So I'll run you away. That triggered our extra attack. So now I will stab you once more. Got a critical there. Stab you twice more. Alright. That exhausts 1 set of extra attacks. Now we walk over here and we unequip our random offhand thing. Switch back to melee weapons. Walk on back. Provoke again. Sentinel. That gives us even more attacks. And while I'm thinking about it, I'll use Martial Exertion too. So, then we attack once more. Let's move you away so we don't have ballless armor going on here.
The only way out is through.
Twice more. And thrice more, which gives us our Bloodlust Elixir attack. And we also, of course, still have our Dread Ambusher attack going on here too. Stab that way. And then let's stand over here and let's take care of Mind Sanctuary.
Put him up.
Now our actions and bonus actions are interchangeable. We had currently 2 actions available, 2 bonus actions available, so that should give us 12 attacks before we get any additional actions going on here. Two. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. And 12. But we're not done, not by a long shot. We've still got Action Surge, for example. So another one. And another 2 over here. And we're still not done. We haven't used our haste yet.
Happy place.
We'll throw out a speed potion too.
Too easy.
Come on.
Too easy indeed. Even with these minimum power attacks, you can see I'm just slaughtering them. Alright, another one down. Then we'll walk over here and then let's get out our Terrazol. And 3 more. So, there we got 5 actions, 2 bonus actions, and 2 reactions. And each of those was giving us a total of 3 attacks due to our doubled extra attack. So 27 right there, then 1 from Martial Exertion, then an extra 1 from having additionally 2-handed at the beginning with our dual wielder feat, and 1 last one from Gloomstalker makes 30 attacks. And you can get similar numbers, as I mentioned, with a Warlock / Swordsbar doing some slashing flourishes and things like that. So, about 30 attacks is what I get for the best numbers you can pull down on non-Or mode with a pure warrior character. And if you had bonuses actually added to your damage there, and we're doing things like booming blades and whatnot, especially given that Duelist Prerogative is piercing damage and therefore works with the ballless armor, and so you can be doubling all your damage and just disintegrate anything you want. Alright, so what about Honor difficulty? The rules, of course, are quite different. For one thing, you can no longer stack up the Deepened Impact of the Blade with regular extra attack to get 3 attacks per action anymore. That just won't work. But also, even if you have 3 attacks the normal way from being a level 11 fighter, that's still not that great on Honor mode. Because it only applies to your main action and your Action Surge action, not to your, say, Bloodlust action or your Haste action or things like that. Though, notable trick, it does apply to your Duelist Prerogative Sentinel double reactions if you do things in the right order. So you could ultimately trigger that triple attack, I guess, 4 times in a round, but then after that you're left just doing 1 attack per action pokes, which is not so great. So this one is going to be mostly Monk, because Monk Flurry of Blows still works on any number of bonus attacks on Honor difficulty. So you're still getting 2 attacks per bonus action, and with being a open hand Monk, we can get to 3 bonus actions with the Helmet of Grit. Action Surge is still good for 2 more attacks, and then Swords Bard is still as good as ever to be getting our Slashing Flourish ranges for extra attacks that way. And then as before, we're still going to be using Duelist Prerogative and Dual Wielder to be getting lots of reaction attacks to trigger extra attack again. So, let's show how it works. We'll activate Wholeness of Body outside of combat, and then we'll begin a fight. Now, as we've seen before, on Honor mode, order matters here. So we want to first take care of our reaction attacks. Okay. Then, because I'm being a stickler about these things, I would say that only Slashing Flourish range counts. Slashing Flourish melee, I'm counting as an AoE attack and therefore only as one thing. Alright, we'll walk over there, and we will make sure to drop our offhand weapon. Make sure melee set is out.
Fresh orders?
Trigger that. Sentinel it. Walk her away because we're trying to do minimum damage here. This build has almost nothing being added to its damage, so as to guarantee that we don't kill these people too quickly. Okay, so those are our reaction attacks taken care of. Now let's do our regular old extra attack. Being careful again to not get kills yet, because we don't want to screw things up with Mind Sanctuary, which will be my next move here.
My turn.
So now we'll throw out the Mind Sanctuary, because this is just kind of finicky. If you do things in the wrong order, it might just wreck your extra attacks or things like that. You don't want to risk it.
It's ever easy.
Let's, on this one, do this as a Slashing Flourish range, because we haven't used many of those yet. Another 2 there. Alright, so we walk out, so that means we've lost our extra action there, but that's fine. We can now do Action Surge if we wanted to. And then stab once, stab twice. Then we can take out our Flurry of Blows. And let's do that again. There we go. That gives us our Bloodlust. But I think I don't want to go into the Sanctuary for that, just in case of any shenanigans, where sometimes it'll eat your action. Let's not risk that. Then let's throw out a Speed Potion at you.
Survival is all that matters.
And do another Slashing Flourish ranged. Alright, now we'll use our Terrazul. So in total at this point we've gotten our 6 main actions. We only have one more basic shot to do here, where we've used up all our Slashing Flourishes. We had on our Wondrous Gloves here for an extra flourish this time, rather than the Martial Exertion Gloves. It works out basically the same way. Each one gives you an additional attack. Then we will walk on over there, and we'll do one last Flurry of Blows. So, we got to 23 attacks on Honor mode with a warrior character here. Let me know if you see a way to get additional attacks beyond what I've seen here. I think I've been fairly thorough about looking through the items in the game and the various class features and things like that. I considered some alternative builds that could get comparable numbers of attacks here, but they always came out tied at best or maybe 1 or 2 behind. But maybe I'm overlooking some kind of trick. Let me know if you see one. We've seen some pretty crazy stuff here. 3 ways to get infinite numbers of attacks, liquidating any fight that you want to. We've seen also that even if you play within the rules, on Honor difficulty, you can get more than 60 attacks with one character. And even under the tightest rules of using a strict warrior character who doesn't cast any spells on honor difficulty, you can still get a mind-boggling 23 attacks in a round. There were also plenty of other great builds that I considered that didn't quite make the cut here. They might have in fact been better in some respects, but they had fewer attacks, and therefore for this video, which is about the theoretical optimization question of how many attacks can you get in a turn, they weren't quite good enough. But, of course, in the real world, you might care more about how much damage can you output, or other questions like that. And in that case, some of those other builds that have maybe 1 or 2 fewer attacks, but do a lot more damage per attack, come to the fore and might become a bit stronger. Likewise, in the real world, you probably want to switch out some of your items for things that do a little bit more damage than I had here. You'll need to determine for your own run and the items that you have and the build goals that you have exactly what you want to do with these tricks and maneuvers that I've shown you here. But with these as a foundation and the building blocks then customized with whatever items and things you want to be using, you can just dominate any encounter in the game. You'll have way more damage than you can ever possibly need to win any fight you want to in one round. Thank you for watching, everyone, and a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. The Irreverent Reverend, MasterKnightDH, Jackie, Enlino, Travis, Andrew Curzon, Truebsy, Oliver, Chronische, Jago, David Kouvchinov, Gregory, Broken Box, Jenna M, Just Becca, Jack, Newbienna, Nicolas, Schmuck, Kostya, Nesterovich, Fredrik, Bruun, Emperor Kong 420, Robin, Stefan Van Zyl, Edie, Mina, Ali Kasimoglu, Skyler, Soss, Nick Myers, Ninjaz, Chupatan, Diabetic Cat, MarvinFang, Max, Afuro, Zamurai, Lodestone, Bic Mars, Brad, IJ23, Rodrigo Lopez Dato, The Coding Owl, Silent, Eldridge, Zadira, Wisconsin Cheese Wizard, Peanut Butter 89, and Nicholas Halden. Have a great day, everyone.